xTool reached out to me to see if I wanted to test out their new xTool F2 Ultra UV. Yeah, that is a mouthful, so let's get into it. Now, this is a pretty heavy machine. It weighs about 50 pounds, so I would definitely do a team lift with it. Currently, there's a special introductory price for this at $4,049 for pre-order. Details will be at the end of the video. So let's go over some of the specs. This is a 5-watt, 355 nanometer UV laser. It is one of the fastest UV lasers in the industry at 15,000 millimeters per second. It has autofocus, it is fully enclosed, it has a surface engraving area of 200 by 200 millimeters, a inner subsurface engraving area of 70 by 70 millimeters. It has a 48 megapixel smart camera, has the optional conveyor, fire safety set, rotary, and safety pro. It has ultrafine detail spot size of 10 microns, exceeding the CO2 lasers. It supports many different materials with little to no burning. When you unpack the laser, you'll notice that there's this bracket. There's 4 screws holding it in place. What this does is actually lock the gavel in place during transit. I think this is a very smart move because I just wasn't a fan of these gavels just basically shaking around during transit. This really helps secure it during shipping. As we remove the phone, you'll notice something different from xTool. Yes, we have 2 lenses now. This one's actually for the subsurface engraving. We'll get to that a little bit later. In the foam, you'll notice these pieces. We have to assemble it. This is actually for the riser. This is for the subsurface engraving for the K9 crystals. It takes a total of 8 screws to put together. Doesn't take very long to get it together, and it really makes placing these cubes on this riser super simple. Now let's go over the machine a little bit. In the back here, behind this little door here, you have 2 USBs for expansion, 1 and 2, for the rotary and other accessories. On the side, you have the emergency stop, the computer input, as well as your USB flash drive and power button. On the back, there's the display, foot switch, a couple more expansion USBs, the safety lock, the power supply, and the fire safety set input, if you so choose to get any of these accessories. Also on the back is the modular fan, which is a welcoming sight. So you can actually go ahead and take the fan apart really easily for cleaning. I really like to see this. See, all you have to do is lift up the cover, take out the fan. Very easy to clean because it gets gunked up pretty darn fast. And you simply just push it in and install the cover. It is that easy. Let's plug in our safety key, our display, and our power, and then do a little peeling. And that brings us to today's video sponsor, PCBWay. Are you looking for a PCB manufacturer? Are you looking for rigid, flexible PCBs? Are you looking for them to assemble them for you? Well, they can. And they also offer other services such as 3D printing, injection molding, and CNC. Heck, they even have a community section where you could buy a project and assemble it on your own. When you launch xTool Studio and your laser for the first time, it's going to be time to calibrate your camera. It's very easy. Place the card in there and you just line it up. Pretty darn simple. Then you remove the card. Next is going to walk you through, if you so choose, a little tutorial on how to use it. We're going to use a black business card. I think this is a welcome addition to any software. Basically walks you through the interface. We're going to do a flat surface, and then we're going to pick our material. It walks you through literally every step. Through a little project like this, you pick now the metal business card, and boom, you're off to the races. I think this is a welcome addition to any software just to get you going and quickly. It definitely answers a lot of questions. Let's start out with some projects. These are ceramic coasters. And these are my settings. We're going to do power at 80, speed 100, 1 pass, lines per centimeter 350, and frequency 50. Each of these took about 7 minutes to engrave. One thing that you'll notice with UV lasers is that they tend not to really burn. It's a very clean engraving. It kind of reminds me of like CNC for certain materials. Very clean. Next is a coaster. Power 90, speed 500, 1 pass, lines per centimeter 200, and frequency 40. This coaster only took about 1.5 minutes to complete. It's really fun watching galvos. You can see how nice and clean and crisp the wording is. Again, you will definitely battle some of the inconsistencies because this is a natural material, but overall, fantastic result and very fast. Next, let's do a hardwood coaster. This would be kind of cool to engrave. We'd do a power of 90, speed 100, 1 pass, lines per centimeter 350, and frequency 45. Takes about 8 minutes and 16 seconds. Now I did go for a slower speed and a higher power because I really wanted to get some engraving in here. And you can see how nice that looks. There is no charring whatsoever. Super clean, very crisp. I mean, that is just, it looks like it was just pressed in there. It's hard to believe the quality of this machine. Very cool. Now let's try some batch engraving. I have these clay composite poker chips. They are kind of with the plastic, so please be warned with fumes and make sure you're properly vented and exhausted. So we're going to go ahead and import an image. I'm going to do, of course, Tripod's Garage. You do what you want, and then we're going to place it on there. We're going to do batch engraving, and then we're going to pick our boundary. Click our boundary, process, boom, all populated. And 3 minutes and 20 seconds, we're off to the races. In case you missed it, the settings are 30% power, 2000 millimeters per second, and we're doing 400 centimeters and 40 on the frequency. You notice that the green is very nice in contrast, same with the black because they're darker colors. The red, not so much, because you're going to have to kind of tailor it, either by reducing your power and increasing speed or vice versa, because all plastics behave a little bit differently. Now let's continue on to some glass. This is my beautiful and high-tech shot glass jig. Basically, you want to have your shot glass completely flat along the top surface. And that's what I came up with. Also, you want to make sure that you have something the laser can focus on. And I'm just using a piece of paper. Otherwise, your focus will go right through the shot glass. And here are my settings. Power is 60, speed millimeters per second is 80, 1 pass, lines per centimeter 300, and frequency of 40. And this only takes 1 pass. Glass and UV are just amazing combination. Now this is actually real time, and if you paid close enough attention, you could have actually seen some glass particles shooting off. And look how nice and crisp this is. 1 pass, under a minute and a half, easy profits. Really cool. Now enough with the boring stuff. I know this is what everyone came for, is the subsurface engraving. And when you launch the subsurface engraving, it walks you through all the processes to get you up and running. Besides installing the riser, it's absolutely critical that you do the measurements precisely for your cubes, your K9 cubes. Because I tell you what, I've ordered a few hundred of them and they're a little bit different. And you want to make sure the machine's powered off before you replace your lens. Again, the goldish looking lens is for that. Now remember how I said these cubes are a little bit different. Let me show you how different they are. These are supposed to be 50 millimeter cubes. We got 49, let's give it a bit of a more squeeze, 48.94. Okay, that's on one axis. Now on the next, 48.51. And on another, we have 48.94. I've had these off by 2 or 3 millimeters. So typically what I do is I have my longest axis on my Z for the height. Now let's go over some of the software. Unfortunately, every cube is different. So let's go ahead and measure this one. So the highest one, like I said, is going to be my Z at 49. Y will be 48.5, and my X is 48.9. Basically, I'm just going to grab my STL imported, and I'm going to center it within my cube. And I'm going to launch the K9 setting and start engraving. Of course, you'll see on the left there, I centered it the way the instructions mentioned it. And let's see how well this turned out. This took about 20 minutes to engrave. Now, this is where you can actually see how well the modeler did with their mesh, because it's going to show. And you can actually see the detail here. It's very striking for such a simple model. You can actually see basically the skin. It is very, very detailed. Now you're going to see some spots that look like it didn't engrave, and that's actually how it works, is where those are considered the dark spots. That's how you get your tones, is that it actually skips over. So if you see some blank areas in your model, well, that's your shadings. So, but look how crisp and clean. The mouth and eyes just look absolutely fantastic. Believe it or not, this is going to be the best model you're going to see here. First off, it takes up almost the whole cube, and it just looks absolutely fantastic. So, and it focused real nice, which I hate to say, I'm going to have some camera difficulties a little bit later. But now I want to personalize this, and I could actually add text after the fact if I so choose. So we're going to put Jengar on here, I guess how you say it. I'm not one for these characters. I'm going to change the font over, and now I'm going to reposition it into the cube where I believe it will not intersect the model. So now I'm going to just resize it, and I'm going to bring it down and bring it to the lower front on an angle. I think the angle will definitely look really good. Now I'm just going to mess around with this a little bit more, bring it down and bring it a little bit more forward, and I'm going to just rotate it, make sure I'm happy where it's going to be. I'm going to just play it safe and bring it forward even a little bit more. That way I just know it doesn't intersect the model, because I'm going to put the cube right back on. And about 30 seconds later, we now have a name. Let's go ahead and take a look. Now that's pretty darn cool. That's a test cube. So that was a little mess up that you saw behind the name there. So gotta have a test cube, you know. Now, you can't just engrave any STL and sell it. You need to be part of someone's Patreon, or where you can have permission to sell their models, like this Stitch and a couple other models. I am actually part of Wekster's Patreon, so to speak, where I could actually sell his models if I so choose, because I have a monthly subscription to these models. This is Stitch, and then we're going to do this weird thing. I always forget what it is. What is that thing called? Just put it down in below, because it's very popular. It's very freaky, but his models are really nice too. And you can actually see the fur on it. I don't know. People love these things. I don't know what it is, but they're darn freaky, and my daughter knows. But again, just put it down below. Of course, you know, I had to do something Star Trek, and we did the Enterprise refit. I even got the font too for it. Now, when you downsize and shrink a highly detailed model, you can't expect the best results. I think this does look really good. You definitely could tell it's the Starship Enterprise, and it's the refit. And later on, we're going to put a little bit of a glow underneath these, and these will really pop. But I'm still very satisfied with it. And as you saw when it was on the display with the light going through it, it looked really sharp. And this is another Wekster model. Yep, you know, Aliens, the face hugger. Look at that. Now this, again, when you go with someone that creates a model and they do it right, look at the detail on this face hugger. Absolutely stunning. Looks great. I mean, this one actually only took about 8.5 minutes, because it was pretty simple. It was just little swirls. And the more the laser bounces around and the bigger the model is, of course, the longer it will take. The average model in the cube is about 20 minutes or so. But really nice. Say that you're not into 3D modeling. Well, xTool has you covered. What we're going to do is we're going to click on the little paint icon down here. We're going to go to 3D modeling, and we're going to choose General. I'm going to go ahead and search for my dog's picture here. There she is, Oreo. Now, first thing I'm going to do is ask it to remove the background. Basically, make it a white background. And it's going to do that. But it did something really weird. It kind of rotated the picture a little bit, or it did later on. And it added more of a body. So I'm like kind of telling AI make what I want. And then finally I get to the point where you see on the screen here, where I just have basically the neck and the head, just what I want. So I tell it to 3D general it, and now I get the outcome I want. You're going from a 2D image to a 3D image. She's got her floppy ears and everything. Looks very, very close to Oreo. I am super happy with the results. I even got the whiskers on the left of her snout there. Look at the detail on that. Talking about being able to custom engrave something from a 2D image with that much detail. Now these are credits, so you do have to buy them. And I spent about 150 credits. But again, if you already have a white background and stuff, you spend less credits. So the cleaner your image is, and the less you have to ask for the AI to do, the less credits you're going to spend. But talking about being able to make profits and not have to worry about 3D modeling and having an image come out like that, absolutely, absolutely amazing. So I went into AI software and I said, hey, make me a drawing of a Ford F-350. And it did a pretty darn good job. So we did the same thing, did a 3D general of that, and that's all I had to do. And look at the outcome. It looks pretty darn good. Now, I'm not going to blame it on the xTool software, but yeah, the antenna is supposed to be on the passenger side. And in just a few clicks, it did a really good job. Now we just select the K9 inner carved glass, and we're going to hit process. And just like shrinking down the Enterprise, shrinking down something as highly detailed as this truck here, you're going to see that it's not as clear as you most likely may want it to be. But you can definitely see that it's a truck, and even through down the axle on the bottom. That's pretty darn slick. It wasn't even in the picture. But yeah, it's got the bed, it's got everything. Doors, I mean, you could clearly see it's a pretty darn nice model in there. So kind of lessons learned here is if you want to have models in Subsurface in K9 glass, actually sometimes less is more. So the less detail, better the model might be. I really enjoy working with different lasers, and UVs are some of my favorites. And would you look at these models? I have these little cheap LED pucks that go underneath, and they're meant for like shot glasses, but they work really well. So say if you want to sell these subsurface engravings, you could buy these little pucks on Amazon, and you can get they're like less than $1 each. It really makes them pop and stand out. As I mentioned, they go underneath the glass for like a wedding, and the batteries come with them. And on the bottom, you have an on-off switch. You press it once, they blink fast, press it again, blinks a little slower, press it a third time, and it's solid. So let's go ahead and put this model on here, and look at that. I actually took a UV laser to a 3D printing conference. I sold like 4 dozen of these subsurface engravings, and I gave these little pucks with them, and people just went nuts. It was great. It was such a nice profit to be made. And then you add customization, like someone's pet or a couple or something, and realize that you do not need 3D modeling expertise to get it done. The AI software can get it done for you. And then go to something as simple as a shot glass. You create a jig, and you can make just hundreds just off engraving shot glasses. Pretty darn easy. Now, what are my thoughts about the xTool F2 Ultra UV? Like I said, it is a mouthful. xTool is just making it easier to use advanced machines. It's nice to see that the software works hand in hand with the hardware. I mean, the software for xTool has just really taken shape over the last couple years. It walks you through the tutorials, and it actually knows when you do not have the correct lens in for the job. It was super easy to set up and go, all in a matter of minutes. Now let's go over some of the negatives. And we're actually heading back to the software. And that's because I was on beta software, and the material library wasn't all that complete. And I really worked hard on the settings. So when I say these are the settings I'm using, that's because there were no settings for those items or materials. So, and also some of the materials I had were not really in the material library to begin with for any other platform. So it's in beta, and xTool did tell me, like before in other releases, that they're working to get that library built up. But I expect to have materials wasted for that purpose, for testing, especially for natural materials, because some of them will behave differently with the setting that you're kind of used to. And just like the F2 video, I'm not a fan of the credit system. Never have been, never will. You know, I understand that, you know, xTool have to pay for that AI interface, and they're most likely a third party, and the credit system is what they need. I'm just never a fan of, you know, mortgageware where you're paying every month, or nickel and dimeware where they're doing that credit system. Just never been a fan. But then again, as you get used to the software and you have cleaner images, you use less credits. The machine didn't come with any safety eyewear, even if it has enclosure. All lasers should have safety eyewear included. And that's basically the only negatives I have. Overall, I think it's a very solid machine. It doesn't take up much space, but it is pretty darn heavy, at about 50 pounds. Like I mentioned, that if you're looking to purchase, links are down below, and let's talk about the pre-order offer. It goes from basically today, November 14th through the 26th. You need to put down a $50 deposit to secure your F2 Ultra UV to get basically $600 off the total price, because the final payment will be $3,099. And again, that goes until November 26th. So I really appreciate you tuning into Tripod's Garage. Please have a wonderful day, evening, or weekend, or whenever you decide to watch this video. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you again on Tripod's Garage.